I was woken up by my brother. He told me to turn on the TV, and he told me that, he asked me where my parents were because they were in Manhattan at the time, and I didn't know what hotel they were in, and he didn't either, and it was a bit of a panic because I had actually spoken to them on the phone the day before, and my mom had said that they had planned on going to the World Trade Center on the 11th.
I called my sister at work because her parents were doing a tour of the Washington, D.C. area, so that was of some concern to me at the time. So I called my sister to try to get my father's cell phone number.
So I was freaking out, and so I called some really good friends.
2 days before the attacks, I had sent my ex-boyfriend a letter in hopes of reconciling, and my first thought when I heard about it was, I'm really glad I sent him that letter, because if we're like going to war and we're all going to die, at least he knew that I still loved him.
I called my wife from my car. I was on my way to work.
And 2 days later we were back together.
Spent most of the day in a weird two-person bubble with Tom. Well, three-person bubble, me and Tom and the television, taking in information and freaking out.
I just needed someone to talk to. Fortunately, about half an hour later, my parents somehow managed to get a phone call through and tell me that they were okay, that they overslept.
I mainly just watched it on TV.
I was in New York, and so as soon as I found out what had happened, then kind of everyone kind of like, phone, I need the phone, and so it was like this long line of people waiting to use the phone.
I called my mom.
Tried to call my mom, but it was impossible to get through to New York, but my sister said she'd talk to her and she was fine.
I was kind of hesitant to call her because she's really religious, and I just wasn't ready for all that.
I called everyone. I was on the phone all day. I spent most of the morning trying to reach my friends. I had an old friend who actually had disowned this year for standing me up multiple times in New York from college, who was working in the Trade Center. I called all of our mutual friends to see if he was okay, and he was.
My mom woke me up and said, "Sarah, hon, you better turn on the news." So I turned on the news and I watched TV for about 4 hours, and then I went to work, and we just kind of all sat around at work listening to the news and watching TV and being silent.
And I called my friend Josh in New York. He was the first guy I called because I was petrified that he would have been in the rubble.
I actually woke my boyfriend up out of bed to tell him that people were attacking New York because I was just getting up and going to work, and so he was sleeping, and it felt like, War of the Worlds, and I absolutely could not believe it was happening, and I thought it was a hoax, because first I heard Howard Stern talking about it, and I was like, that's fucked up. So then and he was so serious, and I was waiting for the joke to end, and so I turned on the TV because it wasn't ending.
Called my mother later in the day just to talk to her about what was going on, see what she was thinking.
I didn't really need to, or necessarily want to, talk to anybody yet, because I hadn't fully processed what I really thought about what was going on, because it seemed like something out of a movie. Definitely like out of some weird action superhero film where there's an arch villain blowing up the world, and I couldn't necessarily decode it, or it didn't make a whole lot of sense at the time.
Dean Martin.
Dean Martin.
Dean Martin. Matt Helm.
Oh, God, Dean Martin.
Dean Martin.
Dean Martin.
Jerry Lewis.
Dean Martin.
His early stuff.
Jerry Lewis.
Dean Martin.
Frank Sinatra. No!
Jerry Lewis.
No, because not Jerry Lewis anymore because of what he said about ladies not being funny.
Jerry Lewis.
Dean Martin.
Dean Martin.
An airport.
Jerry Lewis.
Dean Martin.
Dean Martin.
I don't even know anything about Dean Martin. But Jerry Lewis is so fucking goofy, I can't.
Is Jerry Lewis Jewish?
Dean Martin.
Jerry Lewis.